Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you decided to tune in and listen. I am going to just be so excited to hear what our co-hosts are going to say today and answering your questions. So call us at 1-800-229-3000. And by co-host, we're talking about Dr. Alice Benton, who's a psychologist and author, a mom, and all-around great person, as well as Marc Cameron, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist, director of Relationships 180, and he and his wife, Amy, do amazing ministry there. But we're so grateful to be here and to answer your calls at 1-800-229-3000 for the next 2 hours. If you've got a problem, we've got an answer, or at least the beginning of an answer. Right now, I want to hear, Marc, what's on your mind today?
So today I want to talk about the weekend conflict. So sad to say, for many years of our marriage, my wife and I had many weekend conflicts, and usually over something very, very trivial, and we let it ruin the entire weekend. So one or both of us would get upset at what we thought the other person should be doing differently, or a perceived criticism from what they said, right? That would cause a conflict, and then we'd sulk the rest of the weekend. And we didn't realize it, but our insecure attachment styles were to blame. Right. So our attachment styles are the way that we learn to bond from the families that we grow up in, from the responses that we got from our parents. So now in the 40s and 50s, there's a guy called John Bowlby. He is a British psychoanalyst, and he was attempting to understand children, infants and toddlers, when they got separated from their parents during war, during hospitalizations, their responses. And now back then, parents weren't allowed to go into the hospital with children when they had procedures. And what he noticed is that these kids would go into a stage called protest. They would cry, they'd refuse to eat or play, they'd wait by the door in desperation for their parent to come back. And then when they didn't come back, they'd go into this place of despair, hopelessness, and then they would detach from others. Now, my wife and I, we both came out of childhoods with a vacillator attachment style, which forms from having an inconsistent parent connection. And these are the phases that we had learned to do with each other from this conflict. We would protest with each other, and then we would go to despair because it wasn't working, and then we'd detach for the rest of the weekend. Now, there's a saying that says a fire has two elements, that of burning and that of shedding light. So once we're able to use the fire of the conflict to shine a light on our childhood wounds and how we're trying to get our needs met in this emotionally insecure ways, instead of burning each other, we were then able to use the conflict to provide healing and give each other more emotionally healthy responses. And since we've learned about attachment, now we take responsibility for our triggers and our reactions. And we still have those minor annoyances, right, that happen throughout the weekend, but now we can move past them without that spark causing a fire because we're working on removing that tinder. Now, Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And I'm wondering how many of our listeners out there also have this weekend conflict and this suck. And if you do, give us a call. We can help you.
I think it's why God doesn't want us to let the sun go down on our anger. He wants us to resolve things as quickly as possible because we all suffer if we let it linger from one day to the next or for years or decades, which many of us fall into.
I love that. You know, we were talking just briefly before the show about how important it is to move towards that secure attachment, no matter where you can identify your attachment style. If you want to know more about your attachment style, you can call us and we will get you to the resources that can help you discover that. But we want to hear you here today on the show. Maybe you can call us. You got Marc in the studio. He can answer your questions about attachment and many other things. I'm so glad that you survived the weekend conflict. I mean, some of us may need some help in that. We'll be right back after this.
We went to the Intimacy and Marriage in 2019. We were both done.
This is Steve Arterburn. Do you feel like your marriage is done? New Life can help. We believe that everybody has room to grow in the intimacy level of their life. Our Intimacy and Marriage workshop examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The next Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is July 26th to the 28th in Washington, D.C. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more or go to newlife.com. 1-800-639-5433.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to experience a new level of intimacy and have a great marriage.
The transformation, phenomenal. And it's transformed our lives so much.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Hi, I'm Steve Arterburn with the New Life Moment. Who is God? It's an important question, both for our eternal and present well-being. If we are unaware, second-guess, or maintain false conceptions of God's goodness, wisdom, and power, we will surely have trouble giving ourselves to Him in faith, love, and obedience. Consequently, we'll distance ourselves from Him and strive to live upon our own resources. You see, false conceptions of God necessarily lead to false conceptions of ourselves, the nature of our problems, and the way to their solution. However, if we see a complete picture of who God is, we'll realize that we're safe in His fatherly keeping, and that the source of all of our troubles comes from being anywhere else. Yes, God is loving, compassionate, and full of tender mercies. At the same time, He's a powerful warrior, robed in splendor and majesty. Who is God? Well, visit me, Steve Arterburn, at newlife.com, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
I love that. And I think sometimes we do need to sit back and understand how we do view God, because it can be an incorrect, an incorrect view of who He is and how much He loves us. So I just want to encourage you to keep searching. And if you need help, we are here for you. Right now, we're going to go to the calls. We're going to take calls, like I said, for the next couple of hours, 1-800-229-3000. We are going to talk with Alex, who's calling us from LA and watches us on YouTube. If you're watching us there on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe and like button. It helps get the word out. How are you, Alex, and how can we help you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. I just have some things on my heart that I've been kind of contemplating. And one of the major issues that I'm struggling with right now is I'm getting my master's in psychology, and I started it before COVID started. And then when my church shut down, I ended up going to another church that has a huge biblical counseling ministry. And I've never been exposed to biblical counseling. And when I started taking some of their classes through their church, I was thinking to myself, what's going on here? Because I've been in therapy. I've been to Christian therapists, and most of my Christian therapists never mentioned the gospel. They never mentioned, God's word and trying to help me change and grow and be more sanctified. And I'm confused now, because now honestly, I really don't like my master's program because I'm being taught by secular pagan professors who don't know Jesus, and it feels so empty and meaningless now compared to what I'm learning in biblical counseling. Yeah. And so I'm just kind of like on the fence now, trying to figure out, well, what do I do? Do I throw away my master's program and start, because there are some private universities that offer PhDs in biblical counseling. Right. And I have found that biblical counseling is just so much more satisfying, because I get the Word of God to help me with my problems instead of just my therapist and his ideas.
Yes. Alex, you're asking a really good question. The three of us all have gone through processes to figure this out. I went to a secular university for my master's program, and I did feel the call for God to lead me into Christian counseling. And this is 1,000 years ago too. So you can imagine Christian counseling was a new thing back then. But I'm going to turn it over to Alice and Marc, but here's what I would say. Alex, it may not be an either or situation. So just hold that. And let's start with you, Alice, and let's see how we can help Alex in this journey.
Alex, we can completely relate because we all discovered biblical counseling at some point and had that, this is the good stuff. Where's this been all my life? And so we sure get it. And you're asking the right questions. I wouldn't just throw out the secular program that you're attending because unbeknownst to them, they do have many of the gospel-based, God-based principles that do make even secular therapy effective. And so they may not know that their version of therapy is confessing one to another because the prayers of a righteous person have power. But that's still why secular therapy works, because it is a process of confessing. They may not know that we should speak with grace and truth, but assertiveness training is grace and truth in action. So it's not all useless information, but adding in the biblical foundation to it does take the ability of secular therapy to an entirely new level. Alex, I've said many times that my true graduate education has come from reading all the New Life books and listening to the show, because before I was connected to New Life, I didn't know these things either. I saw a little bit of it in a lot of it in the 12 Steps of Recovery, working at a drug and alcohol treatment facility. And I thought, oh, they're talking about higher power. They can talk about God. Because in my secular program, it was pretty ill-advised to talk about Christian spirituality. We were pretty much warned against it. And so like you, I saw the power of integrating the gospel, and it brought therapy to an entirely new level. So I would say don't throw it out, but start reading all the New Life books, because that is where we can really learn how to integrate the two.
There you go. Marc?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. So I actually went to a Christian university, and that's how I got my master's degree in counseling. But they had a really good way of integrating. And in fact, my final project was an integration paper. Right? How do you integrate therapy and counseling principles into your faith? And so I like what you said there, Becky. It's not an either or thing, right? The psychology proves the Bible, not the other way around. All good and perfect things come from God. And so when people have revelation, whether you're a Christian or you're not, right, it's proving what the biblical principles already are. Now, there are certain things when we take these secular classes and they talk about, different counseling theories and things like that. And you can actually learn a lot by identifying different approaches to implement the things that are in the Bible. So that's what I think is really helpful. Plus, there's a lot of things about safety precautions and planning and things like that you may not get from a biblical counseling program. And so there are different lenses of how to see the world. But Alice, you were right. I mean, that's how I got most of my education from how I personally practice. Right, yes. I got the degree. I learned and I understood the theories, but it was through reading this book. It's through reading the implementation of the gospel from that Christian lens that I learned the way that I do therapy.
Does that help, Alex?
Yes. One follow-up question. Why are so many biblical counseling programs anti-integration? Most of them are like, what you need is the Bible, sola scriptura, I think the phrase is. You only need the Word of God to apply the Word of God to your problems, and that's how you get to the solutions.
Well, the quick answer to that would be that it is a different frame of reference. It's what they do, as opposed to when you're doing professional counseling training. There is a broader scope, and I will turn it back to you guys. But the thing that you just said, though, Alex, is that you're gonna encounter a lot of people in your counseling world, whether it is biblical or professional or a combination of both. And one of the things that we learn in our counselor training is how to work with all kinds of people in all different ways. And I think that that's really the value of blending the two. Marc, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, and I don't know if I could, I can only speak in general to that because I don't know all of these people who are saying those things. But I think it probably comes down to training on the lens that that person has. And I would probably guess that some of those folks who are saying that probably are not licensed professionals, so they haven't been through a program. And one thing I think about secular teaching is what it will show you is research. And I talked about research in my opening, John Bowlby doing research. But when you can apply these principles and follow people even across, 20 years or so, and you can see how different populations respond to things, we can see, how does human behavior work and how can implementing something affect human behavior. So I think that's what I would say. That's another benefit of doing a secular course, is learning about the research that is there. But again, understanding that this all flows from God. God's the designer. He designed our brain. He designed the way that we go about seeking getting our needs met.
And Alex, I would add to it that I think some of us Christian counselors we're not upfront about our Christianity in therapy sessions for a couple of reasons. I think from secular programs, we're taught don't impose your faith on your clients. And we shouldn't impose our faith, but we can take that to an extreme of, I'm not even supposed to talk about it then. I have to be kind of a blank slate so that they can find the answers within themselves. That's where the answers lie. I think those are, they're myths, but they're generally believed by a lot of us clinicians. We might be afraid it's illegal or unethical to talk about our faith in the context of counseling. So that fear can hold us back from the integration.
Well, Alex, I hope that helps you, and we're going to send you a copy of Changes That Heal, which is Henry Cloud's book, and I think it will give you a great direction in this way. But stay in touch with us. When you get your license, you can become part of the New Life Network, and we would love for you to be part of it, and whatever way that you practice. We're so grateful that you called. We say from time to time that we have listeners who are listening at other times and can't call in with a question at the time that we are recording. And so I just want to remind you, if you want to call in, you can leave a voicemail, which is great, because then we can hear your voice, your question in your voice. But otherwise, you can, submit it via email. But go to newlife.com/radio for the way that you can connect with us. And I want to just throw out one of those questions right now. It's Sherry from Los Angeles. She listens on KKLA. And her question is, my husband feels I respect my father more than him. How do I set boundaries with my father and not hurt his feelings? They've been married 10 years. They have 2 young children, and she is an adopted only child. And her husband feels as though she's a better daughter than a wife, which is that's painful to hear that. She says that he thinks that she's more emotionally in tune with her father's feelings than with her husband's when we're all together, and that I respect my father more than my husband. She doesn't speak up a lot of times when they're all together, but her mother and father she and her mother are estranged right now, but she's always been close to her father. How can we help Sherry and her husband with this issue? Alice, let's start with you.
Well, Sherry, I would ask you to humbly look for even the little bit of truth in your husband's words. I'd probably feel pretty defensive if I heard that from my husband, but wonder if that sometimes you might connect better with your father than your husband, because God calls us to go through this leaving and cleaving process, but it can be hard to adjust the way we connect with our dad and to move some of that connection over to our husband. I actually went through something similar. My dad is a mechanic and my husband has some mechanical skills. But my go-to was call my dad when I have a car problem. My husband was not feeling like I was allowing him to be my first go-to, and he was right. But Sherry, first I was defensive, and I didn't want to adjust that arrangement. And over time, as we talked it through, we used the comfort circle, Sherry, and I asked my husband to explain, how do you think I'm choosing you over my dad? And he was painfully correct in a lot of ways. So I decided for a period of time, even if I thought my dad has the right mechanical mechanical answer. But I'm going to go to my husband because I have to build the bond with him, and I've got to work on leaving my dad and cleaving to my husband. It was difficult for me to let that go, and it was very humbling, but it served my marriage. And eventually it got us to a place where my husband and I we can consult my dad when the mechanical problem is beyond us, but I still need to practice having my husband be my first go-to. Not easy.
That's good. Marc?
Yeah, and this is more to do with what I spoke about in the opening about attachment and how we've learned to bond in the families that we grew up in, and how we go about getting our needs met or deal with our needs going unmet. And so doing that deep study and to see what attachment style you may have, Sherry, what attachment style your husband may have, and where the disconnect is happening. I mean, if we had you on the phone, I'd also want to find out more about the term that you're defining as respect. What does that mean? Because it sounds like he's saying that you will listen to your dad, or maybe you don't speak up when your dad says things. And so that would be something that I would look into. But I would say, figure out your attachment styles, because this is all about bonding and how you're learning to bond with each other, and then have that open, honest conversation using the comfort circle format, and you'll likely discover a lot.
I love that. Sherry, reach out to us. We'll get you connected with somebody who can help you through that. We're going to go back to the phones after this. 1-800-229-3000.
For over 35 years, New Life Ministries has provided help and hope in life's hardest places.
We've struggled a lot with communication. I have struggled with anxiety.
My wife had a sexual affair with my son-in-law.
She said, "Dad, I don't like how you talk to me."
New Life focuses on bringing true healing to those dealing with relationship issues, mental health struggles, and addictions.
After work, I listen to you, and it just helps me with questions that I'm having with my marriage, with my family. I am so blessed to have New Life in my life.
I just wanted to say that you guys saved my life.
Recently, friends of the ministry came together with a matching gift challenge to encourage you to join them in giving. Because of the matching gift, right now every dollar you give is doubled, up to $400,000. Giving is easy. Go to newlife.com/donate, text MATCH to 28950, or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And thanks for making a difference. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career, or possibly strengthening your relationships, or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps towards your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, we rarely do this, but we've extended the early bird discount for our June 1 Emotional Freedom Online Intensive, and we want to see you there. It could be the best day for the rest of your life. And we just, we know that a lot of times we get stuck in places in our emotional freedom. We want to give you freedom to be able to move through and to heal whatever parts of you and all of the parts of you that need healing, so that you can have that freedom. We're going to hear from Chris Williams, Dr. Jackie Mack-Harris, and Steve Arterburn on that day, and you're going to have breakout groups as well. If you have not attended Emotional Freedom, maybe this is the time for you. Go check it out at newlife.com, and we'll get you connected. You can call us, and We even have scholarships available, but we got an early bird discount, so that should be great.
Becky, I just had somebody ask me over the weekend, is it different than past workshops and intensives that I have been to? And if you're wondering that, call and our ministry representatives will talk you through it to figure out, should I come back again for another weekend if I've already done an intensive before? It's a great question.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to go back to the calls, and you can call us 1-800-229-3000. We're going to talk to Maria, who's calling us from Dallas, also watches us on YouTube. Hello, Maria. How can we help you today?
Hi, good afternoon. Okay, so a little backstory to my question, leading to my question. So my husband and I, this is our third marriage. So we both came into our marriage, with our children. I already had grandchildren. He just had his first 3 years ago. So I went to his little grandson's one-year-old birthday, and now they are wanting him to attend. His daughter and family are wanting him to attend. He'll be 3 years old. And so the first wife, this is grandson to the first wife, and then the second wife helped raise the one daughter that they had together. And so he is wanting me to go to the little boy's birthday party. It's going to be at a water park, which is great, but I don't feel comfortable being around his two ex-wives, and quite honestly, I don't want to be around them. I don't mind his children, or even the little, grandson, but being around the two ex-wives, and they get along really good because, of the oldest daughter, they both raised her, whatever, but he is upset at me because I don't want to go. And, it's kind of created a problem. I mean, I don't want to be mean. I don't want him upset at me, but I really don't want to be there. So my question is, do I have to go? Does it make me a bad wife, a bad step-grandma if I don't attend? And I know there's going to be more birthday parties to this little grandson or more grandchildren as they come. But I guess it's because, like I said, both his ex-wives, they're good friends, and they, do events together and whatnot. But I tell him that doesn't mean that I have to be best friends with them.
Maria, how do they treat you, those two ex-wives?
We really don't have any interaction at all. So the second wife lived in Florida, and she moved here a couple of years ago. And really, I asked her to communicate with me because the children were living with us at that time, and she never did. She preferred to communicate with my husband in regards to when she was coming to pick them up, if they needed anything. And moving forward to this day, she doesn't communicate with me. My husband is the one involved in all of their school events and whatever problems are going on.
Maria, your discomfort completely makes sense. I think any normal human being would be very hesitant to attend. This is a complex family setup. I'd have you wonder, if you start to choose not to go because these ex-wives will be around frequently, how do you think that would impact your marriage long term? Do you think your husband can tolerate it over time, even though he's upset now, or would it be detrimental to your marriage if you do not attend these family events?
I think it'll be tolerable. He will tolerate it. So I've attended graduations, and like I said, I did attend the little boy's 1-year-old first year birthday, and they were both there. But even me being there, I feel so out of place.
Okay. All right. Well, we hear it, Maria. That's a lot of relationships to manage. So we get the picture. Marc, how would you direct Maria to get some peace about this?
Yeah. So I like the question that you're asking here, Alice, is about how this is going to impact the relationship long term. We're coming up to the break here, Maria, but what I want you to think about is how is this going to impact your relationship, not just with your husband, but with the kids and with the grandkids going forward, because it's really difficult to blend a family. You know, it's about 50% divorce rate for a first marriage. I think it's 67 for a second, and it's like 70 or in the 80s for the third marriage, because it becomes so complex, right? Just like you're saying, there's all of these dynamics involved. So I got more to say, but we've only got a few seconds here, so throw the ball back to Becky for a second.
We do only have a few seconds, but hold on, Maria. We will get to a conclusion. I'm glad you're asking the question. We will be back after this break. You're listening to New Life Live, 1-800-229-3000.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are talking with Maria, who is married. This is her and her husband's third marriage, and they are dealing with extended family challenges. It's a lot. Marc, you were in the middle of a great thought when we had to go to break. So pick up your wisdom there.
Yeah. So Maria, I'm in a blended family myself. Second marriage. Both my wife and I, our previous spouses cheated on us and we got divorced. And now, we came into a second marriage and we both had young kids. But now you're in the third marriage and you're coming in and there's grandkids in there. And so there's this extra layer in between. And so it makes sense, that the second wife has bonded with the children because they likely came and lived with them. Just like, when my wife and I got married, our kids they were 7. And so we bonded with them. And so now you're this third layer on top of that. And we often talk about at the break and, Becky, you had this phrase and you said the couple needs the work. And I think, Becky, you're exactly right. If you can form that strong bond between you and your husband, then you can learn to withstand anything awkward that comes along. But if you want to bond with the kids, if you want to bond with the family, you're going to have to press into that discomfort of it being awkward until it can become comfortable, or so that you can become comfortable just acting from who you are, from how your values are. Because if you don't do that, you are going to exclude yourselves. These kids are not going to be connected with you. The grandkids are not going to be connected with you. And it's going to make your relationship with your husband very, very challenging.
That's true. Alice?
Maria, I am the kind of person who has gone out the back door to avoid somebody that I had a problem with. I can take a different route. I've even hidden as an adult so as to avoid a difficult conversation and let a person pass by while I'm behind the furniture. I mean, truly, Maria. And I suspect you're avoidant as I am. And our avoidance, sometimes it's necessary, but if we keep giving into it, our fear and our discomfort grows rather than diminishing. And so as this marriage is important to you and as your family is important to you, I don't think you'll be a bad wife if you don't go. You're a slightly avoidant wife, which I am too. But if it becomes a pattern not to go, I think it's minimizing to say, my husband can tolerate it. I want you to be more cautious than that because I want to help safeguard this third marriage. I think it will be very problematic for him if you continue not to go. You're not saying that, but it's so easy for us avoiders to fall into the rut of bypassing this thing that gives us discomfort. So I would rather you go to this one because water park is a great place to go and not have to be involved in a lot of conversations with the people that are there because there's so many distractions. And I want you to practice physical coping skills to regulate your body and your emotions in the presence of something distressing like these other two wives. I think you will become a more courageous woman if you do so, and I think you'll be proud of yourself. I suspect you might regret if you stay out this one, and I think it'll be harder to go to the next one.
And just, I think what I would add in here, because we don't know your dynamic, maybe he does tolerate it, but what I want you to look at is that emotionally healthy if he tolerates that, right? Because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay just because he gives you a pass to do it. And so I heard this phrase a long time ago. I don't know who really said it, but they said, until you do an autopsy on your last marriage, you're going to drag that dead body into your new marriage. And so that's the couple work that I referred to earlier that Becky had said. Go, you and your husband doing that work to see what were the patterns in your first and your second marriage that led to the demise. And of course, you're not responsible for all of it, but you are responsible for some of it. What are your reactivity patterns and how can you guys both move toward secure attachment so that you can bond well with him and bond well with the kids and the grandkids?
I love that, Maria. We're going to send you a copy of How We Love, which will talk all about what Marc is presenting there. And I also am going to have you get some information about our Intimacy and Marriage Intensive. It is never too late to have the marriage that God wants for you, and that is a great place for you and your husband to join us. And you'll have to call us later and tell us what your decision will be. I just want to take a minute and say, listen, we have a matching gift program going on right now, campaign. We are almost to the top, and I just want to plead with you, beg with you to participate in what God is doing through New Life. And you can do that by your gifts and your donations, and you can make a gift, and it is doubled all the way up to that $400,000 matching challenge. So call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or you can go to newlife.com/donate. You can scan the QR code if you're watching us on NRB or on YouTube, and you can text the word match to 28950. Every gift makes a difference in the lives of so many people, and I just want to encourage you, if you've never given before, now is the time. And also, thank you for giving, because I know you will. We're going to go back to the calls. We're going to take calls, 1-800-229-3000, and we're going to talk with Elizabeth, who's calling us from New Jersey, listens on WBYN. Hello, Elizabeth. Thanks for calling. And how can we help you today?
Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling to get advice and understanding. We have a dear pastor, excuse me, he's only in his early 40s, and his wife. They have children. They live in the parsonage, which is next door to our church. Because they're highly intelligent, very spiritual, the puzzle is why they are incredibly messy, to the point of them as looking like squatters, using the church to entertain, which is okay, but it's always. No one comes to their house because of the condition of the inside of the parsonage. The outside of the parsonage is totally unkept unless we have a work day and we fix it. They have had dogs. the church bought fencing, but they don't clean up. They didn't clean up after the dogs.
Elizabeth, would you tell us if anybody has attempted to talk to the pastor about it? How has that gone?
Yeah, and it doesn't go well because it seems like it seems as though people are intimidated because he's so nifty and he can just kind of walk around it. And basically, this has been going on now for several years, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse because they just purchased chickens, and so the chickens are where the dogs were, but they put fencing around it, and it was just kind of left in the row. There's a reason.
Elizabeth,
this is not a petty call. This is a call for understanding. There's a reason, excuse me, that intelligent people would choose this.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a great call. Is there a church board, Elizabeth?
Yes, we have a consistory, and we've gone there. I mean, not we, but I mean they have tried.
So are they not very strong, the church board? I mean,
yes, I believe that. Yeah, I just think they get intimidated.
Yeah, this is a great question. I don't think it is trivial. And just because somebody is a highly intelligent person or a spiritual person doesn't mean that, they can't have chaos in other areas of their lives. And what we'll see is I'll see that there's people who have ADHD. Oftentimes somebody who has ADHD has difficulty organizing things, right? And getting projects started or finishing projects and getting things put away and tidied, or sometimes people have obsessive compulsive disorder and they may hoard and they have difficulty. And it sounds like there might be something like that going on for your pastor and his wife, or maybe one of them is kind of the unintended passenger in this partnership, and they feel like they don't have a voice. But God does call us to be good stewards of His resources, and now the church owns the parsonage, right? It's not their personal house that the church is paying them a salary, and they get to do with their money whatever they want to do with their money, right? The church owns this, and so we want to be good stewards of the resources, and it shouldn't be on the congregation to go and do the work day to get it cleaned up. And so, I mean, really, it's going to the board and find whomever is the strongest person on that board, or maybe the strongest two people on the board, going to them and saying, hey, I'm concerned, like, how can we do something about this? Because yes, he's the pastor, he's the spiritual leader, but we are all flawed, and we all are the church body, and we can learn from one another. So how can we be good stewards? And also, how can the pastor be somebody who can accept feedback? Because that's how we teach, is we teach by modeling.
The board might have to require life coaching for the pastor, and that it's no longer a discussion, because discussions turn into an argument, which he wins because he's so intelligent, but rather this is a loving requirement for the health of our church, and we'll come alongside you, but we need life coaching to help get this under control.
Yeah, Elizabeth, it probably wouldn't be a problem if the house wasn't right next door to the church. If you want to live this way somewhere else, that's one thing, but it's troublesome. I'm trying to think of a good book, and I'll think of one and we'll send it to you. But Elizabeth, we'll be praying for this too, because I know that this is a challenge. We're so grateful that you called. We'll be right back after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I forgot to mention that if you give $100 or more to the matching gift and you request, we will send you a copy of Every Woman's Bible, which Misty Arterburn helped edit that. And I also want to just give a shout out to our Every Man's Battle podcast, which we release every Monday. And JJ West and Doug Barnes are discussing things that destroy intimacy. And so just check that out wherever you get your podcasts. It's free. And I know it'll make an impact. We're going to go back to the calls, but we're going to continue to take calls at 1-800-229-3000. And we are going to talk with Doris, who's calling us from Dallas, Texas. She listens on KWRD. Hello, Doris. How can we help you today?
Hi. I'm a 80-year-old, very young 80-year-old widow for the last 2 years after my husband being ill for quite a few years. And I've met a man who's also a widow for a couple of years. And for the first 5 or 6 months, we were talking several days. All of a sudden, it's like he's backed off, and I don't want to feel desperate, but I don't know what to do at this point. So I'm asking, how do I move forward with him? Do I stop?
That's a good question, Doris. Alice?
Well, Doris, first of all, I want to be able to say I'm a young 80-year-old, so I aspire to whatever that youthful spirit is within you. I admire that.
Yeah, good. Nice to meet another.
This is tough with this fellow that you have been talking to. How confusing and hurtful that he has backed off. Have you been able to ask him directly, how are we doing and what's happening to our relationship?
I haven't done that because I don't want to come across as being needy or clingy, because I'm not. I'm not desperate. I'm fine on my own. But I do miss the companionship, of my husband. I was married for 62 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
It's been a hard 2 years.
I wonder why that question sounds needy and clingy to you. It sounds to me very assertive and clarifying.
Okay.
Why does it sound needy to you?
I don't know. I just don't want anyone to. I guess I'm very cautious about anyone thinking that I need them to take care of me.
Is there
I'm very independent.
Is there some history to that? Have you been accused of that in the past?
No, I haven't. I've been told I'm a very strong person.
Well,
but I've always been a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
So.
In my estimation, then, asking a question along those lines, and if he says, I lost interest, accepting that and backing away shows that you are this independent person and that you're not needy. But the mystery, the unanswered mystery, is bothersome, and it is legitimate and okay, and it's responsible to ask what's going on. What do you want and what do you not want from me?
That's right.
Yeah, I actually think it's emotionally secure to ask that question, Doris, to say, hey, we were hanging out and I've noticed that you backed off. I just want to check in, see, is everything okay? Did I do something to offend you? How are you doing? Is everything okay? Because he may be having a vulnerability moment. He may all of a sudden be feeling like, oh, I'm getting close to you and maybe I don't want to feel like I'm relying on you. And what if you leave and then I get hurt? And so, yeah, I mean, I like that you use that word companionship, because that's often what the focus is when we get into the latter stages of life. It's about that companionship. Who's going to be there? Because we do need each other. I know that you hesitate to use that word need, but we do need each other. When we get to heaven, it's all God's people all the time, right? And he's given us all different gifts and talents, and he's done that on purpose so that we all do need each other in a certain way. And so I think for you here, Doris, I heard you talking about people say that you're a strong person and that you usually are the caregiver, and I'm wondering if it just feels just so vulnerable for you to be on the other side of that.
That's a good point.
And so
I
just
think maybe
go ahead.
he also lost his wife a couple of years ago, and I'm wondering if that has something to do with his backing off as well.
Yeah, so ask that question. It for sure it's vulnerable, but it doesn't mean that you are a needy, codependent person, but you're just a human being who has needs, right? There's a difference. You're not needy, but you're a human being who has needs, and it's emotionally secure to ask the question. And at least you'll get answers. And if he says, like Alice said, like, you know what, we went on a few dates and then I just realized that maybe we're just not the right fit together. Great. At least you know. And you can make a decision from there.
Doris, you can also add that option into him when you ask. I want to know what's going on with us. If you're done with us or you've changed your mind, that's okay. I can accept it. I just would like to hear from you what you're thinking.
Yeah, and
that's
you
what
know,
I'm feeling.
right. And Doris, I think that's what Marc is talking about too, is that, to feel secure enough to ask what you need to ask, to move forward, like what Alice is suggesting. You guys, I'm thinking if we send Doris How We Love It could be very impactful, because Doris, you're talking about a new relationship after a 62-year relationship, a life together, and you're discovering who you are in this new season of your life. And it's interesting because you know yourself to be self-assured, but you're feeling insecure to ask a very understandable question. What happened to you? And where are you going? Go ahead, Marc.
And I wonder, Doris, in there, I know that you said that you're a caregiver too, but I wonder if you'll find elements of one being the pleaser, who generally is the caregiver, but I wonder if you'll find strong elements of you having developed an avoidant attachment style, because avoiders usually say these things. They don't want to be needy. They don't want to be vulnerable. They want to be independent. And the compliments that they get from other people are that they're just so self-sufficient. They're just so strong. They can get over it and they can get on with it and they can move on. But they were not taught how to be emotionally vulnerable with others. And that's the security of a relationship, because even if, something happens and he does reach back out to you and then you go on a few more dates, I've got a feeling that this pattern will play out again. And so learning to address it at the beginning is how we learn how to have open and secure communication with each other so that we can address things going forward.
You may have heard the term ghosting, which is a very culturally acceptable thing to do these days, where if you don't like a relationship, you have a problem, you just disappear and you never explain it and you don't say why you have left. So it's sad that this is happening, and assertiveness counters this ghosting pattern that a lot of folks do these days. And I'm an avoider, so I can be more comfortable doing it too.
Well, Doris, it's funny because you're right, Alice. I've heard of ghosting, but what I want for you is, if this is the person that you're going to share these next days, years, months, whatever, however long God has for you to be in this relationship, I want it to be healthy. And, when you go through, I think How We Love will give you some great insight so that you can have an understanding about yourself as well as this man, or maybe it's another man. I don't know. But also, one last thing that we didn't talk about. If you were in your 20s, 30s, and you were talking to us about dating, what would be, and I'm going to quiz Alice on this, what would be one of the things that we would suggest for Doris?
Well, Doris, we always say don't date in isolation, meaning
Bingo.
We date better when we've got a sisterhood around us so we can bounce these situations and ideas off of. And we tend to be held better accountable so that we don't stick with an unhealthy relationship for too long when we don't date in isolation.
Yes, bingo. That is what we say. And if you don't have those women around you. It could be siblings, daughters, neighbors, somebody who knows you, so that when you may take this next step with him, you've got somebody who can give you some good insight. We're glad you called, Doris. We're going to send you How We Love. Thank you, listeners. If you are on hold, please hold. We're going to be back to take your call right after this little break. If you want to ask a question, call us, 1-800-229-3000. Alice and Mark are smart people and can help you on your way. We're glad you're here
Thanks
today.
for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.